Yesterday I became the majority owner of a stadium, and the person I once loved most in the world bought a ticket to watch me fail. At 9:01 a.m, the clerk slid the transfer papers across the polished oak, and every name that used to tower over mine moved one line down. By 9:07, according to the text stamped on my lock screen, my father and my aunt were downstairs in the lobby, with smiles they'd ironed on. The security guard asked if he should send them up. I said yes, it's not revenge if no one hears the verdict. Nova, my aunt cooed when the elevator opened, as if a nickname could throw a net over the past. You look so much like her. Like whom? I asked. Like Sarah, my father answered, not meeting my eyes. Your mother always had a way of making a room behave. He smelled like mint and gasoline, the cologne of a salesman who drives too far to pitch things no one needs. My Aunt Dahlia wore pearls I recognised, my grandmother's, bright as apologies. Behind them trailed a man whose suit could not decide which decade to serve. He carried a folder and kept his face empty. Mr. Benton, the team counsel, stood at the head of the conference table with a stenographer and a pot of coffee so strong it could hold a grudge. We haven't begun, he said, voice mild as glass. Please sit. I'll stand, I told him. Standing makes it harder to mistake endurance for consent. He opened the folio. By the last will and testament of Marina Vey, he began, being of clear mind and impatient with incompetence, the controlling shares of the Vale Arena Company and its subsidiaries transfer to Nova Quinn, along with the stadium real estate and ancillary trademark rights. He turned a page. There is also a sealed letter with instructions which Miss Quinn may open at her discretion. Dahlia set her purse on the table as if putting down a pet. We only came to help, she said, palms up. Arenas are complicated. Money makes mistakes for you if you let it. My father clasped his hands. We're family, he said quietly, and in the quiet I heard all the times he hadn't called. And I brought my advisor, Dahlia added, nodding toward the man with the undecided suit, to answer any questions. I smiled the way you smile when the ocean tries to drown you, and you've already swallowed its first insult. Great, I said. Then he'll know what this is. I slid a white envelope across the table. The word notice looked small. The advisor's eyes flicked over it. He didn't reach. What am I looking at? An injunction, I said. Preliminary, against you and your company, Dahlia. Against Dad. Against any transfer or pledge of assets belonging to me or to Vile. I tapped the table. And against advising me in any capacity without disclosure. I filed it at 8:30. You've been served. You just haven't read it yet. My father's smile didn't move, only his fingers did, rubbing his ring as if it might grant a wish. We don't want your assets, he said. We want to shepherd. Different verb. Mr. Benton cleared his throat. We'll record that intention, he said. Now, if everyone could sign the registry acknowledging receipt of the will, we can move forward with the reading and adjourn. Dahlia signed with a flourish, then looked up. Nova, darling, she said sweetly, do you have a minute alone? Family business. Everything I have is either in the room or protected by it, I said. So no. The advisor finally spoke. Miss Quinn, if you escalate, this will get messy. I shrugged. Then I'll bring napkins. When I was 12, I learned two things on the same afternoon. Stadiums are cathedrals built out of debt, and love is a promise you have to renew even when no one's watching. My mother, Sarah, sold pretzels at the Val Arena because the tips were better when the team lost. People like to tip sorrow, she said, swiping butter on a paper sheet as if painting mercy. My father worked security until he stopped, and he stopped for so many reasons it would take a choir to list them. The night the team blew a 20-point lead and half the city swore it would never love again, Marina Valley came down to the concourse in a slate coat and sneakers. She was small, and the building listened when she breathed. She asked for napkins to clean up a spilled beer, and my mother handed her a roll with a smile so bright you could sit under it and read. You're Sarah, Marina said. I've had your pretzel. It fixes me. Temporarily, my mother laughed, like all good medicine. They became friends in the way women do when their skills rhyme. Marina made buildings behave. My mother made people do it. I sat at the top of the Section 117 steps and watched everything. When Dad left for the last time, he didn't slam the door. He paused, turned and said, "You won't miss me when the right offer comes along." I waited 10 years for a better line. It never arrived. Marina didn't try to replace him. She showed up. She made lists. She taught me why the third quarter matters most for concessions, how to read a lease the way you read a person. Look for where it's most defensive. "If it bristles," she said, "that clause is hiding something." When my mother got sick, Marina carried both of us as if it were a habit. "Eat before you cry," she'd say, handing me a sandwich. "You can cry after, it makes less static." I moved into her spare room the month we stopped hoping miracles were punctual. She required a current event and a personal win at dinner, even on nights when wins were scarce. She taught me about capital stacks and cameras, about loyalty that doesn't advertise. She never once said family. She did it. And when my mother died, Marina folded grief into her calendar with my name written next to it and made sure I slept. My father and Dahlia appeared at the hospital, demanding to be useful, and left with my mother's rings. I told myself that was a tax and paid it. Then they went quiet again until the obituary for Marina ran with my name beside hers, and suddenly I had family. They messaged, they called. They used old photographs like keys. Revenge is not a plan. It's a pressure. The plan was something else. It started when a server from a pop-up restaurant in the arena's North Concourse DM'd me a photo of a credit card slip. The signature had my name. The contact number was Dahlia's advisor's office. The bill was for consulting. Amount? The tip line, however, said $100,000 in the kind of careless hand that knows math is for other people. "Was this you?" the server wrote. "He told me to deliver it to the South office. I'm sorry if this is nothing." Nothing has a smell. This was something. I followed paper like it owed me rent. By the time Marina's will was ready to open, I had a folder, Miss Joe, Marina's favourite investigator, titled Glass. Inside, emails between Dahlia and a company that liked to call itself a legacy advisor, purchased debts in my father's name, a memo promising discreet reallocation of residuals post-transfer, a list of vendors who used notaries like they used spices, generously and to cover. I didn't want to ruin anyone. I wanted to build a life that couldn't be stolen while they watched me try. But the thing about building is that sometimes you have to clear the lot before you pour. The day after the will reading, I met my father and Dahlia at a steakhouse where the meat arrives already sliced so executives don't embarrass themselves sawing in public. They had chosen it because they remembered me as a kid who loved French fries in a paper cone. I ordered salad and water. I refused the bread. Optics matter most when appetite is loudest. "We're proud," my father said, the word wobbling like a plate on a slow spinner. "Marina saw something in you." "She was generous," Dahlia added, adjusting her pearls. "This is a lot to carry alone. Family helps." "What are you asking me for?" I said. They did their duet, the one where she feigned reluctance and he pretended not to notice. The advisor waited, then leaned forward. "It's standard in these situations to establish a family management trust," he said. "Put the shares into stewardship for a time. Avoid tax inefficiencies. Smooth press." "How much?" I asked. "For my retainer?" he said, smiling. "For your debt," I said, looking at my father. "And yours, Dahlia. The liens, the short-term loans, the advances against a future you thought would come sooner." "Summit." "We're not," my father began. "Summit," I said. 160, Dahlia managed after a beat. Plus hospital fees, plus the car, so call it 200. 200, I repeated. "Take a breath and listen carefully. I will wire you 20,000 today to pay the people who send men to collect. You will sign a confession of judgment for the balance. If you touch my business again, that confession becomes a hammer. If you speak my name to a bank, a vendor, a blogger, a donor, or anyone who advertises credibility, you will meet my lawyer instead of me." "You think money makes you better than blood?" my father asked, heat finally breaking through the lacquer. "I think behaviour does," I said. He reached for the bread he hadn't wanted until I refused it. "You sound like her," he muttered. "I learned from her," I said. "Both things can be true." The letter from Marina waited in my jacket all day. I didn't open it until the house went quiet enough to hear the ice machine pretend it wasn't working. "Dear girl," it began. She never called me dear in life. She saved the word for paper and emergencies. "You are being watched by two kinds of people. Those who hope you fail and will call it fate, and those who hope you succeed and will call it theirs. You can forgive both from a distance. If you mean to repair, do it with receipts. If you mean to prevent, do it with policies. If you mean to punish, ask yourself first if building would make the punishment obsolete. We win not by winning. We win by replacing the game. Then the line that was not advice but permission. I didn't adopt you because I wanted a child. I adopted you because I wanted a future that didn't require apology. There was no adoption order attached. Marina hadn't needed paper to make me hers, but she knew paper quieted rooms where power speaks too loudly. The will came with enough paper to build a fort. I found the first weak wall in the arena's basement, where the sound of a bad idea echoes like a drum. The supply manager kept 2 sets of books, one that told me how many hot dogs we'd boiled, and one that told his cousin when to pick up the cash bag from the vendor door nobody watched after midnight. We were going to tell you, he said when Miss Joe laid the pages on his desk. We just didn't yet. We start over, I told him. Full inventory, cameras over the vendor door, new supplier. You keep your job if you help take apart the machine you built. He swallowed. You won't call the police? I'll call them if you keep lying, I said. You have 12 hours to decide if you're tired. He chose honesty. People do when you set a clock in the middle of the table and let it tick. Then I moved upstairs and fired a consultant who told me we needed a naming partner whose ethics were allergic to daylight. Then I invited the city's food bank director to the suite level and told him our kitchens would be his 2 days a week. And he cried the quiet cry of men who deal in logistics when somebody finally offers logistics instead of sentiment. Then I told the team's head coach that we would cover childcare for staff on home game days because the locker room smelled like sacrifice and axe, and some kinds of sacrifice are a cheap trick. While I built, the plan sharpened. I bought my father's smallest debt outright and let Dahlia discover that the person she owed now loved calendars more than chaos. Why would you do this? She asked on the phone. Because the person you owed first would have put a padlock on your car, I said. I'll give you a bus pass instead. The advisor called from a blocked number. You're playing a dangerous game. Games are for people without ledgers, I said. I have both. He tried a different key. I can help you, he said softly. There are ways to insulate that won't ping the IRS and won't get you hammered on social. There are also ways to stop talking, I said. Try one. The night the plan needed its first public step, I chose a microphone and a charity gala. Cameras are scalpel and smoke at once. It helps to cut while you light. The Harbour Relief Fund set up inside the arena because the old ballroom downtown had mould and denial. I wore black and didn't smile for photographs. I stood at the lectern and told the story of a woman who ran concessions like a soft dictatorship, and a woman who built an arena like a chapel for the loud, and a girl who learned the rules the hard way, and then wrote her own. I ended with a sentence I had practiced until the edges felt blunt. We've partnered with the county to report fraud persistently, I said. We're publishing our vendor list, and I've personally funded a fellowship for whistleblowers who want to learn how to keep their jobs when they tell the truth. After, a reporter with bright flats and a brighter notebook cornered me near the loading dock. Off the record, she said, which is always on it if you want it to be. Is this about your aunt? It's about everyone who thinks loyalty is a coupon, I said. You know that's a quote, she warned. I hoped it was, I said. By morning, my father's borrowed friends read my name in a context they didn't enjoy. The advisor sent a message through a third party, asking for a meeting at a diner where the coffee comes honest and the waitresses call you sweetheart without charging extra. I arrived early and chose a booth with a clear view of the door and the bathroom and the register and the backup exit I would use if I needed to remember I liked living. He sat and folded his hands without removing his coat. You're very certain for someone so new, he said. I've done grief longer, I said. It's algebra compared to this. What do you want? To prevent what you do to other families. You can't stop a market, he said gently. I can change the price, I said, and tell everyone what you're charging. He smiled. You don't have the stomach. I slid a small recorder across the table and pressed play. His voice filled the booth saying words no man says when he wants to keep his drywall. He went very still and very white. You wired the pop-up? He whispered. I wired the pen, I said, and the ceramic sugar caddy. Also the tip jar. Also your ego, apparently. He laughed then, the kind of laugh that sounds like paperwork. You think this ruins me? Asked. We adapt. I think this ruins your options, I said, and I think prison ruins your appetite. Choose. He chose a lawyer. I chose new locks. When the charges came, they came all at once. Fraud, forgery, a conspiracy that tried to pass as advice. The prosecutor called me Miss Quinn on the phone and Nova when she needed me to breathe. This is going to get ugly, she warned. They'll say you're a vulture. They left their bones in my yard, I said. I compost. My father called exactly once. You can stop this, he said, voice low because low makes you sound serious. I can't, I said. I filed my ability to stop it 3 months ago. What do you win? He asked. Sleep, I said, and a kitchen that feeds the city on Tuesdays. He sighed. Your mother would hate this, he lied. She would hate what you did to this, I said. She would love the menu. At the preliminary hearing, I wore a navy suit that didn't try too hard and the ring my mother bought herself in a thrift shop when Hope was on sale. Dahlia cried on cue. The advisor kept his hands on the table so the cameras could record how steady he was. My father nodded at the judge as if they'd both read the same book club selection about integrity. The judge was a woman whose patience came pre-sharpened. She flipped papers. She asked good questions. She didn't like adjectives. When it ended, reporters needed nouns. I gave them the smallest noun I could craft. Boundaries, I said into the microphones. That's the whole story. It wasn't, but it made for an honest headline. Revenge tastes like a clean ledger and looks like a building that runs without shaking. I replaced 3 suppliers, rehired a janitor, a manager had let go because she was too outspoken, renegotiated the beer contract so our community league got the stadium for free twice a month, and put Marina's name on the scholarship she wanted, but kept denying herself because she thought her praise would jinx the kid. I also bought a storefront 2 blocks away where the consultant network had taught heirs to sign their money away. I turned it into a notarization clinic and mail room, staffed by people who knew how predators speak when they want signatures. We hung a sign over the counter that said, "Paper is for people, not traps." On the opening day, an older woman pressed a letter to her chest while the clerk stamped the green card. I thought nobody would take me seriously, she confessed. We take paper seriously here, the clerk said, like a doctor announcing good blood work. I had to step outside and breathe next to the trash cans until the world stopped feeling like a test. Ms. Joe found me there. She didn't touch my shoulder because someone had taught her what not to do. You're doing it, she said simply. Doing what? I asked. Choosing infrastructure, she said, instead of theatre. Sometimes theatre buys time, I said. It also sells it, she answered. Your father and Dahlia ran a long show. Then let the curtain drop, I said. She smiled, small and almost proud. It already did.